The Muddiest point. The Muddiest point is a classroom assessment technique and is very efficient as it provides high information with low investment of time. The classroom technique consists of asking students to write down a response to one question. What was the muddiest point? The focus of the muddiest point could be in several forms. For example, a podcast, a discussion or a lecture, a homework assignment, or play and film. The purpose of using the muddiest point technique provides information on what students find least clear or most confusing about a particular lesson. In using this technique, it is very easy to administer. But on the other hand, it is very important to respond quickly as it does require priority responding. The muddiest point technique can be used in any setting. It is well suited to large group classes. The muddiest point questions usually consist of a few words, which usually can be read and sorted in a short time. The muddiest point question should be posed at the end of a lecture, at the close of a discussion, presentation, or immediately after a reading assignment. This classroom assessment technique can be used when large amounts of information are presented with each session. The muddiest point is best used sparingly in courses where emphasis is on integrating, synthesizing, and evaluating information. For example, the muddiest point could be used to assess students' understanding in the levels of dementia. Gem cards are used to identify the 6 levels of dementia, and the students will be able to describe in detail the progression. The muddiest point will be used to describe the points of difficulty in assessment. To respond to the students, the muddiest points will be presented in the next class. To determine the muddiest point, first, what do you want feedback on? Is it the entire class or on one particular segment? Is it the lecture, a discussion, or a presentation? Secondly, if using this classroom assessment technique, reserve time at the end of the class. Leave enough when asking the questions for the students to respond, as well collect their responses by the end of class time. Thirdly, let students know amount of time to respond and what you will make of their responses. Fourth, pass out paper for students to write on. Fifth, collect responses before students leave. Collecting cards as students leave or having a box by the exit is ways of collecting. And lastly, respond to feedback by next class or as soon as possible. When reviewing data, it should be kept simple. Read through responses, looking for common types of muddy points. Sort responses into related muddy points and one pile for one-of-a-kind responses. You may want to group responses that concern fact and principle, those concerning concepts, and those that concern skills. Ideas for adapting and extending classroom assessment techniques. You could ask a student to identify muddiest points in a homework assignment. Ask for results at next class. You could ask for a reading assignment and write the 3 muddiest points in the chapter. Ask the students to read each other's writing assignments and point out the muddiest points. Involve students by having a few categorize and summarize the data and to present the results and perhaps even their responses at the beginning of the next class. Let students know that some of the muddiest point questions will be used in an exam. The pros of using this type of classroom assessment technique: it is quick, it is easy to administer and requires very little preparation. You can use this technique spur of the moment. For students who hesitate to ask questions in class, this is a safe alternative. As well, for students who are lost, this technique can be a lifeline. This classroom assessment technique can also help the teacher find which students are finding difficulty to learn. The class can be geared towards future assignments more accurately and effectively. When students are regularly asked to identify their muddiest points, the student will tend to pay more attention to how they are understanding, which will lead to more care in listening and studying. This technique promotes introspection and self-assessment. The cons of this technique: there needs to be a balance. Teacher needs to focus on what students do understand as well as on the muddy points. It can be disconcerting that your well-prepared lecture or lab could be misunderstood by some of your students. It takes time to become effective self-assessors. You may not want to develop these skills during class time. Your feelings are that you are positive you presented with clarity, but the muddy points reflect otherwise. Your feelings could be disappointment or anger. Make sure you deal with these feelings before responding to your class. Don't spend time responding to muddy points from past sessions. You could risk losing the momentum of your class. Don't give students the impression that muddy points can be cleared up quickly. Some may take days.
Hey, hey, here come the trouble.